Hello, it is Liz, and today's video is actually inspired by a different video I saw recently. Also, look at my Christmas sweater. Merry Christmas sweater, 'tis the season. 'Tis the season. Fun little story about this sweater, actually. A while back, I was in therapy specifically to learn how to manage, social, interactions and social stuff and whatnot. That's autism for you. But one of my experiments that I would do while I was in therapy was I would go into stores once a week and I would walk in on my own and I would go through the whole process of the interaction of finding the thing, buying it. Usually it was just a pack of stickers at Target because I knew where the stickers were. Also Christmas socks. Usually I would just get a pack of stickers. Sometimes a notebook if I had, but those are a bit more expensive. Anyway, one time I went to Target on one of these social expeditions, and as I was walking by, it was I think this was last year. Why does this feel like it was 20 years ago? It was last year, and I was walking by, it was November, and I was walking by the clothing to get to the section with the stickers, and then I saw this sweater. With all its magical colors, with all Joseph from the Bible. You know that story? There's a biblical story about Joseph and how he had a coat of many colors. This is better than that. Joseph would envy what I have. I saw this shirt and I immediately was like, well, this is what I have to do. And I actually went into a fitting room on my own for the first time. Actually, it was the only time I'd ever done that because I struggle a lot with I'm not going to go into all the social stuff, but usually I buy clothes online, and this I bought in person, and so this sweater has a little bit of special meaning for me. Anyway, today's video is inspired by a different video I saw by the creator ndbern. I actually have, the title is "This is Low-Key Driving Me Insane." But it's about projection and art. And when I say projection, also check out her channel. I've been subscribed to her actually on a different account, way back when, for a while now. And I like her stuff. Her channel actually is a part of the inspiration for what made me want to talk about writing in videos. She's much more, I think, better at she's better at getting to the point and actually having thoughts of substance. I think I'm working on it. I'm getting there. But if you don't already know about her channel, definitely check it out. Anyway, her video was about projections in art. And by projections, I mean I think the example she used, I saw this yesterday, was she talked about how for her art, working on art projects, she has a lot of ambition and stuff. And art projects kind of give her, it's kind of proof of your skill. Does that make sense? Especially because she's an introvert and stuff, and she mentioned in her video that making comics, having comics readable, that art and drawing and getting a positive response from it was proof of, it sounded, I don't remember if she used this word exactly, but it sounded for her art was a method of self-worth a little bit. In the video, just basically it was talking about what, the reasons why someone might draw. And for me, it was an interesting video. It was an interesting topic because I never really think about why I draw. For someone who overthinks everything under the sun and overcomplicates every possible thing, I really don't think about why I draw. I just draw because I do. That's just what I do. And because of that, I kind of was well, I don't really know why I draw other than it's fun and it is just interesting. It's the most interesting thing in the world to me. That and storytelling, the two combined, it's like a drug. But I was thinking, are there any projections? Are there any things, any reasons why anything I get out of drawing that could be tied to more of a personal, back to the self-worth thing? What does drawing do for me, on a, what do you call it? Would it be ego? Would it be what would you call it? I don't know the word I'm looking for. I don't know. There are many words, and I'm not sure which one of them is the one that is the one. I don't know. But the video was interesting because it made me wonder, like, is there something drawing does for me that kind of ties into, like, self-perception? Does that make sense? Like ndbern or Cookie Crow, I've seen her go by both names. She kind of mentioned how she likes, you know, she has a lot of ambition. She wants to finish a book. She wants to, you know, that is kind of like, it's proof of you being like a quiet person who doesn't like, and this is also kind of coming back to just introverts in general. When you spend a lot of time alone, sometimes it can look like, you know, you don't have anything to show for it, and making something, like making a book, is something that you kind of internally can be like, well, look at this, a book, look at what I've been doing. Again, it's like proof. It's like proof of stuff that you do, and I think in some sense art kind of gives me that a little bit. For me, I think I have this to some extent just because I don't think if I didn't draw comics, I think I would be very sad. In fact, actually, yeah, I can say that with certainty because there was one time in December of 2022 where I don't remember what specifically happened, but somehow I lost like all of my work on a specific comic, and for like a week straight I genuinely did not know what to do with myself, because up until that point I'd been drawing pretty much daily. Whenever I had free time, I was drawing. It was just no questions asked. It was always drawing. It was always writing a little story. And then for that week, in fact, actually, what happened? Okay, this one changed story because I have terrible memory, apparently. This wasn't one of the times where I accidentally deleted all my files. That happened with a different story. After this time, what happened was I realized at some point that I hadn't formatted anything right, in the sense that, like, I could not fit bubbles anywhere. This was back when I used to draw sketches and stuff, like, really like tightly together before I put any like bubbles or anything in. And sometimes I would even do like line art, and then I would color without like making space for the characters to actually talk. And I realized that I had done this with like, I think it was like 12 pages of a comic that I was making, and for some reason, I cannot even begin to understand this mindset now because this is not my current process. I did not have like anywhere to put the text of what the characters were saying, and I realized I'm just gonna have to rework. I'm gonna have to start over because this isn't workable. And then I was so discouraged by it that I was like, you know what, I don't even want to do this. I don't even want to do this project, and I deleted it intentionally. That was the difference. It wasn't like an accidental situation. The accidental thing happened with the comic immediately after that one. It was called A Bad Color. I had it on Webtoon. That one I accidentally deleted. That's a whole other story we're not even going to talk about. But this one wasn't on Webtoon or anything, and I just trashed the entire thing. So for the first time since I was a small child, I was like, you know what? I am not meant to draw comics, and I'm not going to do it anymore. And for a week straight, when I say that, like, I had no clue what to do with myself, because again, this happened in December, so it was like Christmas break when this happened, so I wasn't really I didn't have work to do, or like school or anything, because it was time off, which would have been a good thing, but I decided to just like burn everything I loved, so it wasn't a good thing. Because by this point, you know, this is a tangent we're going on right now. By this point, I had so many failed comics, and I use failed lightly because they did fail. So I use fail literally, but not, you know, you kind of have to fail for a while before you make like a project that works. And by this point in time, I had so many issues with so many other projects. Either I didn't understand something art-wise and I looked back on it and realized I had been doing something wrong, or it's a whole list of things. And by this point I was like, I'm just not going to do it. I'm not gonna draw comics because I am incapable. I'm incapable of understanding comics, and I stopped drawing them, and for that week, I was in the pit of despair. This actually messed with my sleep because the night that I realized that my comic I was working on at the time wasn't gonna work, I was so stressed out by it that I stayed up. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't go to bed. I spent all night trying to, like, make up new stories and stuff and trying to attach to new stories because I was like, I need something. And I was like, well, I'll go to sleep when I find, like, anything. And I couldn't. And so I didn't sleep, and then the morning came. And I went upstairs. The Christmas tree was set up in our living room, and I love Christmas trees. I love Christmas trees. I love them. And I looked at it, and I didn't feel anything. I was like, how dare you have the audacity to shine when everything is dead? And I went to the kitchen on, like, no hours of sleep, and my sister saw me, and she was like, what is wrong with you? And I was like, I can't draw comics anymore, and I don't think I'm ever going to draw them again. And she was like, that's not true. And I was like, it is true. That same night, the same thing happened. I stayed up all night trying to just, it was weird because I was telling myself, I was like, I'm not going to make comics anymore. But then I would find myself, just without even thinking about it, taking out, like, notebooks, because I have just random notebooks everywhere, and I would find myself just taking them out, trying to write anything down, trying to draw anything, even though I was supposedly not going to be making comics. And I didn't sleep that night either. I couldn't find anything, and it was the third night. I was trying to sleep, and I was super stressed about just not having a story or characters, because it's weird because I felt kind of lonely. I don't usually feel lonely, which is a little weird, because I probably should, to some extent, because I really haven't had, like, an in real life friend, in, like, what, 5 years? Like, I haven't really been, I don't really know people, and objectively, I'm alone most of the time, but I very rarely actually feel that way. But I remember this week in December 2022 feeling like there was no, hey, excuse you, I'm in the middle of a story right now. It just goes to show that birds give no regard for you as a person. But I remember I felt, like, very alone, because I had no characters. It was so weird. It was so weird because the comic I'm working on right now, you know what, I'm deciding this video is just gonna be a random rant about comics. I don't know what I'll title this because I think I lost the original purpose, but I'm gonna keep talking anyway because that's just how it is. For the comic I have now, I cannot imagine, like, not caring about the characters in the comic I have now. And that was true at the time too. But I think when it failed, I think for some reason I was just so distraught about it that the attachment I had to the characters, the connection, just, like, died somehow, which had never happened before. And so I was kind of trying to find, like, something to kind of, I don't want to say, like, grab on to, it sounds a little dramatic, but I was trying to find, I just felt like no one was there. Even though I don't know why, because realistically no one was there before either. But it didn't feel that way. And then on the third night, I was stressed, I was trying to sleep, and I wrote this little episode on my notes app on my phone about this girl named Robin. And basically in the episode, the only thing that happened in this first episode was she got a hug. Basically, it was her first day back at school, and then she got a hug from her brother because it was implied that something bad had happened. And at the time, and that's what became my webtoon that I accidentally deleted, A Bad Color. At the time when I wrote it, I really didn't know what was going on in the story. I had no clue, but I think I was just sad. All of this to say, I don't really know what it's to say. As much as I don't think about why I do art, there are many reasons, really. Art for me feels like social. I don't know how to even explain it. It also makes sense to me. It makes, like, aside from that story I just told you, generally speaking, art is one of the few things that really makes sense to me. Art and storytelling, because admittedly, there are a lot of things. In fact, it's frustrating. There are a lot of common things that make no sense to me. And I joke about it, but genuinely, it is frustrating when you encounter like a lot of real life situations and you don't really know what's going on. And I don't feel that way when I'm drawing. I feel like I know what's going on. I know how to draw. I know how to write, and it makes sense to me. I think, admittedly, there's also an aspect of like maybe control and stuff, because I know that I didn't even used to really think of myself as being this way, but admittedly I have a hard time in situations where like in-person interactions. I mentioned this actually in the beginning of this video. I am not very socially like in tune with things. Luckily I'm better with like typing or like writing, but like talking to someone face to face is incredibly hard for me, because I have a very difficult time with the whole back and forth of like knowing what they're gonna say in response to something and what I'm gonna say in response to that. And I remember I used to get so stressed out and so confused by myself, because I was like, well, why am I so bad at conversation when literally all I think about is conversation? Like, all I think about in my head constantly, I have little characters talking, and I write in notebooks. I have notebooks piled on top of each other that are just conversation after conversation. I'm like, why is it that I can write conversation like all the time, and I have fun writing it, I enjoy writing it, but then in person I just don't even know where to start. Like, I have no clue what to even say, and it makes me mad because I'm like, make sense, because why I don't make sense, because you can't write conversation 24/7 and then not know how to have conversation. But I've been told by two people, if I guess that wouldn't be numerous, I've been told by two people that the reason why I probably can't do real life conversation is because even though it doesn't feel this way, characters are in my head. I just realized that my knees have been like blocking my beautiful Christmas sweater this entire time. What a shame. It doesn't feel like my characters are just me talking to myself. It does not feel that way. They feel like very distinct, separate people, and it doesn't even feel like I control them or have like any say in what they do. Logically, I know that is not true, but internally that is just how it feels. And so, but I have had my sister primarily tell me before that technically, they are just me. And so when you think of it that way, it makes sense as to why it's better when I write conversation than when it actually happens, because essentially, as much as I hate to say this, I am kind of just talking to myself. It is just a conversation with myself. I know what to say because myself is going to be the one responding. There really is no question of like, what is the right thing to do here? Anything is the right thing to do here. It used to frustrate me. It used to make me kind of angry at my own inconsistencies, because I'm like, well, why can I write conversations and I can't have them? But it actually makes sense. It makes sense because like in real life, I'm not talking to myself, or when I'm talking face to face to somebody else, it's not just me, it's someone else is now in the equation, and I don't really have control over that sort of thing. And I'm trying to get better at like letting that sort of thing go, but it is just not natural. But yeah, that's my conclusion. I don't know what specifically it is. Let me know, what does art do for you if you draw? If you don't draw, what, you have something. Everyone has a thing. What does your thing do for you? I do appreciate, I have a couple people who comment a lot. I have my friend Thomas, he comments, and then Alessandro, you also comment. Thank you. I love reading you guys' comments. Also, Alessandro, I think I follow you on Instagram. I think it's the same Alessandro. If you don't draw, then comment about your little model things on Instagram. Your little, you did like the dinosaur models on Instagram. If it is you. Maybe I just like know 2 random Alessandros at the same time, but that just seems unlikely. That seems unlikely. There cannot be 2. Anyway, I'm gonna edit this video and see if anything I said made sense.